Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome to my channel. Thank you for tuning in. So today I'm going to give you a video on how to turn a stack of metal like this into a usable billet that you can form into a blade. So stay tuned, watch the video, and you'll get to see the whole process that I use to turn this Gomai from a stack of metal to a usable knife billet. Thank you.
So I'm going to use my MIG welder to weld this billet together. Initially, I have about 7 layers of steel, and I use my welder to stitch weld across the billet from one end to the other, and then I'm going to come back and weld in the spots in between the welds. Once I have 3 sides of the billet welded up, I'm going to cut a little piece of rebar, clean it up on my 2x72 inch belt grinder, and then I'm going to MIG weld it to the last bit of the billet to give me something to hang on to as I'm forging it and stretching it out. Once you get your billet forge welded and stretched out, then you can remove this piece of rebar with a chop saw or whatever cutoff disc or attachment that you want to use.
All right, YouTube. So we have our Gomai billet welded solid. As you can see, MIG welded all the seams, so no need for flux. This makes it a little bit easier if you're new to forge welding or you don't want to have to deal with delaminations. As long as these welds don't break loose during the hammering process, you really won't have an issue. And then when you're done, you can just cut off this little piece of rebar once you get your billet smashed in and stretched out.
In this part of the process, the first time I pull it out of the forge, I do the initial weld setting. So I use my hammer and I lightly tap from the center and work my way out. This will allow any air or gas trapped in to escape. And I don't hit it too hard, because when you hit it too hard, it can cause the metal to slide apart. I just want to hit it hard enough to kind of initially set the weld with each other. So as I go longer and longer, I will hit it a little harder and a little harder until I'm sure that the billet is forge welded. So once I've set the forge welds with the billet laying flat, I'll turn it on its side and set the forge welds from the side. So if your billet is not solid, at this point your layers will probably start to delaminate and come apart. So I want to hit it a couple times on the side and then put it back flat and then flatten it back out. And then I repeat this process in multiple cycles until I'm sure that the billet is 100% welded. once I'm sure my billet is welded solid, I use my homemade hydraulic press that I made from a Harbor Freight log splitter and some scrap steel I had laying around the shop. This is about a $300 to $400 investment, but it is pretty useful around the shop. As you can see, it moves this metal pretty quick, and it actually sped up the process of creating this Go My billet. Otherwise, I would have been on the forge and the anvil for probably a good hour, hour and a half to try to get it to this end. But with this, it was 1 or 2 cycles through my hydraulic press, and the billet was to the length that I needed. So this part of the process, my billet is to the length that I need, and I just use my hammer and anvil to clean up the edges and give it a nice uniform appearance as I finish out the forging process. And here's the completed billet. Thank you for tuning in. Please like and subscribe.